is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That, of course, 6 Feet Under. Brand new stuff, that one called Sacrificial Kill. And on the line right now, we've got the sacrificial killer of all that is not good in the world, I'll say. It's the one and only Chris Barnes. Chris, how are you, man?
Pretty good, Chris. How you guys doing there?
Really good, man. Well, Chris,
right.
I got to tell you, man, not that I think you've ever really put out anything that was disappointing, but my goodness, is this album fucking excellent, dude. It's so...
Thanks, man.
So,
Thanks, yeah.
It's what you do, but it's got little nuances of change in it, just little things here and there that I don't know if it's purposely different or just the way you've developed, but it's one. I would say it's one of the top 3 in your catalog.
Oh, thanks, man. I think so too. Yeah, I think it's just the way we developed. Jeff Huell he's such a great musician and writer, and he just wrote some very interesting material that was well thought up, and he knew where to put things that, for me to write what I needed to get out, and the rhythms and stuff that he wrote, he knows what my wheelhouse is as far as my vocal specialties go.
Sure.
So he kind of wrote around that. I picked up on it, and it was interesting for me. I mean, there's a lot of cool ins and outs on the record, like you said. So for that to, when I feel that, it's just kind of kicks me into overdrive, and it kicked the whole album into overdrive, as far as our perspective on things this time.
Sure. Now, when you go into a new release, Chris, do you look to, I don't know, grow, for lack of a better word, or are you much more of a do what I do kind of guy, and everybody's expected to kind of follow along that path? Yeah,
no, I'm kind of anti that. When I sit down to write, for my, writing lyrics, I can't speak for how Jeff takes, what's going through his mind on, that level. But for me, I just take it as it's my first song I've ever wrote. I don't think of any other song or lyrics or vocal style, because I let the music speak to me, and that's my that's kind of what tells me how to accommodate the song in my head with a style of vocal, or how I need to present it lyrically, even with the vocal phrasing and stuff. So I don't think about the past stuff. I don't like to blanket a specific vocal style over every song. It doesn't fit to me.
Right.
It sounds out of place. So I just take it one song at a time and just try to match it up with the sound of the music and match my voice up to that.
Sure. Do you think that might be some of the reason that you've worked with, and especially in the writing aspect, where you've worked with so many different people, in the band, that you've done interviews in the past talking about how you're using them as a writing partner? Like, I know Rob Arnold from Chimera fame, before he joined the band for a little bit, was one that you were very vocal about, that you liked creating with him.
Yeah, it's kept me interested and kept me, kind of moving forward with the physicality of what I do, because I have to just like I said, in all those interviews about all these guys I've worked with, man, they're such great talents and such experts at their craft and at their instrument, that it pushes me to try to get better at what I do, in both, the physicality of singing and also writing interesting things that are going to match what they're putting all their effort into and coming up with. So it's kind of a friendly competition to try to put a puzzle together that is just really spectacular, and it doesn't exist before. So it keeps me interested in that search for writing something that's just exceptional. And being involved with these guys has been great over the years. You know, Rob and Yari and Ben Savage and Phil Hall and and Jeff and all these guys. And it's just been so much fun for me. So they've had a lot of fun too. I can attest to that.
Sure. Certainly. Now, Chris, Torment it's a completely different lineup, I believe, than Crypt of the Devil was. How did that change, adjust everything from working in the studio to, creation and everything? I know we kind of covered the creative part, but I got to imagine that with a whole new lineup studio-wise, that changes everything in the studio as well, or at least a good portion of it.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much the same as the last few. I mean, over the past 8 or 9 years, all the musicians I've been working with have pretty much had their own home recording studios, and that's been a big benefit for us. It's made things a lot easier financially and just easier for everyone just to be able to record in their own environment and record as they write. It makes a big difference that there's not a big gap in time. And the comfort level is important because you want to get performance, is the main thing. So, performance over perfection, I always say. You just want to capture something that's unquantifiable within the mix and within the recordings. So, that type of thing, the way we've done it isn't too much different from the past. It just seemed everything went very smooth this time. There was no hiccups at all with anything. With all the way through, it was pretty effortless. We had Zeus come back in and do the mix. He did such a great job on Unborn, and I've wanted to work with him for quite some time again. And man, it was just it was a good vibe all the way through the record, and I think it carried through onto the recording.
Certainly. Now, you did have a member change recently with Steve Swanson leaving the band after, God, he was with you like 20 years, I believe. What happened there, and is that a peaceful breakup or not, or what?
Well, yeah, Steve was with me, I think, 17, 18 years. Yeah, man, he wrote some great songs with us, and we had some great times touring together and all that. Just Steve felt it was time for him to move on, and it wasn't a nasty split or anything like that. Steve's a great guy. I could never say anything bad about him. He's was always a great friend to me, and I still consider him a friend. I just it's just time for him. I think he wanted to just wanted to kind of go on his own way and do his own thing. So, I wish him the best of luck, man. We had some great times and some cool tours.
Sure. Do you think that because of the kind of music and the style of music and the whole, I don't know, ambiance, for lack of a better word, of what 6 Feet Under is, do you think that makes it harder for people to stay? To build a cohesive band that just stays forever? I mean, clearly you've had a lot of different members come in and out, and I don't think I've seen a lot of stuff where people are like hating on you or anything. You know how band breakups go. Everybody wants to shit talk one another usually. There's not a ton of that with you, and yet there's been a lot of people, which makes me think that kind of the whole thing of this harsh, brutal death metal is just a harder existence than maybe some other types of music. Or am I way off, or is that accurate, or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I maybe reading into it a little bit, but I just think that what's important for me is to create great songs, and any way I can do that by any means, I need to do that. So I'm going to take the steps to do that. And, I follow the same thing as a dear friend of mine who's not with us anymore, my friend Chuck Schuldiner, and how he portrayed death. You know, he always worked with different people, and no one had anything nasty to say about that. They're just happy now that he did that and created such great music, and was able to explore his musical talents and bring us all some great death metal to have. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I think the most important thing are the songs.
Sure. Are you surprised that the style that I'm going to say that you pretty much invented, because before 6 Feet Under specifically, death metal had a specific sound, and it kind of mirrored your other band, Cannibal Corpse. It was play as fast as you can, as many notes as you can into everything, and just pummeling. And when you added the groove element and actually did some stuff that was slowed down and whatnot, it really changed the game, in my opinion. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of other guys out there. It doesn't seem like there's 1,000 other bands that are doing that, even though it's been successful for you. Are you surprised that more people have not tried to adopt that style?
Oh, I don't. I guess I don't think I've looked at it that way, Chris. I just,
okay.
I mean, there's a lot of heavy bands that have real catchy parts and stuff. Mm-hmm. I know, my whole thing was when I was in Cannibal, I love the fast, furious type of, intense time changes and all that stuff, and mm-hmm. that's exciting. But I noticed, like, when I was on stage back in those days, that, man, when we'd get into the middle parts that were just the heavy parts, mm-hmm. Man, the crowd would get real, they'd feel something different from that, and they'd dig in, and you'd see it. And I always felt like, 6 Feet Under, I wanted more of those parts, and kind of like the reverse.
Sure.
Maybe a fast part in the middle, and then the heavy, pit parts all over the place. Because it's something when you're, like, from the fans' perspective and from a band's perspective on stage, sometimes when things get really technical, people just watch. They just like are in awe of what's, like, they're like trying to put it all together, like all the musicianship that's happening. And I don't know, I like the energy of people physically kind of
like connecting
in a way, but not even like involuntarily moving, because their bodies are reacting to the heartbeat rhythm. Mm-hmm. So it's an energy that's transferred between us, and that's a powerful thing. When I feel that, it's something happens to my psyche. I don't know. There's a vibrational energy there that I crave, and when I feel that from a crowd, I don't think anything can stop us, or it's very powerful, man. It's pretty intense, man, when things are in the right pocket with 6 Feet Under on stage, man. I don't think many bands can understand it or or even come close to it.
Right.
So.
Well, having experienced it several times myself, I can tell you it definitely pulls you in. That's for damn sure.
That's the intended effect.
Sure. Perfect, man. Well, Chris, I did want to talk a little bit about the Graveyard Classics, not any specific one, but kind of all four of them in general. They are, and maybe you had a different vision than I think most people did, but they are surprisingly popular for as harsh as they are. I mean, I'll just tell you, the first time
they're popular on a couple different levels depending on who you ask.
Sure.
I'm sure, but yeah. I mean, some people like them and some people don't. It's sure. They're all different in each of their way, which has been on purpose. Mm-hmm. On everything I don't want anything to be the same. I'd want it to have everything have its own feel, and it's us, but I want to have everything have its own ins and outs and different tones and interesting things. I think those albums are real. They kind of cleanse the palate before the next the next 6 Feet Under album, and kind of, just clears the air a little bit so you can just absorb the next album of our own music on just a fresh way, and not too much with what happened on the last album we wrote.
Right.
So they're cool songs. They all have their ins and outs. They all were exciting to make, and they all has kind of mark a specific point in time for me in my life. So sure. I like those, and it was fun. We did a tour over the summer in Europe, and we did all cover songs. It was the Graveyard Classics tour, and
nice.
It was very challenging, very challenging.
Sure. When you go to do those records, are they only songs that are, that have meaning to you, or do you actually listen to songs and say, man, that would be difficult for me to put the 6 Feet Under spin on. Let me give that a shot.
Mostly they're songs that I enjoyed when I was growing up and everything, that I was a fan of the music of and everything, and pretty much just stuff I like and that I thought would be fun to do. I mean, all of Graveyard Classics 4, Brian Slagle picked all the songs off of that one.
Sure.
So that was like cool, because just having someone else pick the songs and then trying to dig into that, So, and they're all favorite songs of mine anyways. I love Priest and Maiden were my favorite bands growing up. So
sure, definitely. Speaking of Schlegel, real quick, do you think that you specifically could have had the same career that you've had if there was not a Brian Schlegel out there? If Metal Blade didn't exist and it was strictly back in the day of the Century Medias and whatnot, do you think that you could have had the career that you've had without such a ardent supporter of specifically the kind of metal that you were making at that time?
No, I wouldn't have that career. I owe everything to Brian. He's provided me with a place to be, to create music and to keep going forward, and to a place that I started, because at that point we weren't, Cannibal Corpse wasn't getting a lot of, we weren't getting that many people responding to us, like from record labels. Sure. That well. And when I was even a fan of music before I started singing in a band with my friends, we would go up to the record store in Buffalo. It would take us a while to get up there. And, man, I didn't have anything. I've told this story a couple times, but I didn't have any other than maybe Metal Forces or a Kerrang here and there that I could get a hold of. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any reference or any major peer pressure. People told you what bands were good when you go to a record store and buy it. So my reference was just, if it had Brian Slagle's name on it and the band was on Metal Blade Records, right, then that was what I would buy, because what I found out, like from stuff that I bought previous, I was like, oh man, this label has some cool bands, dude. I'm going to watch what they put out. And if it has this guy's name, Brian Slagle, and Bill Montoyer's working on it, oh man, I'm going to buy that one. So that's kind of was my guide to the heavy metal that I enjoyed, and then 7 years later, we send a press package to Metal Blade, and we get a record contract back from Brian Slagle and Metal Blade Records, and the rest is history. So, no, I don't think I would have a career right now if it wasn't for Brian Slagle and Metal Blade Records, and I owe them everything.
Sure.
So I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, that's for sure.
I hear you, man. Well, dude, I got to tell you a quick story about a very young 20-year-old a million years ago. There used to be a little shop I used to live in California when I was in the military, and there was a shop called Metal Mania in Seaside, California, and I was your typical hair metal kid at this point. Yeah. I was much more Motley Crue than Metallica or Cannibal Corpse or anything heavy, at the time.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I loved all the hair metal. I mean, I saw all sorts of stuff, man.
Sure.
I mean, yeah.
Sure. But so I used to go into this place, and it was run by some guy that was probably 50 years old that was really into heavy stuff, and then his kid that was into the real underground stuff, right? And I would go in there, and I'd be leafing through the CDs or the tapes at the time, and you know, he can't. I'd be trying to buy whatever, Little Angels or Def Leppard or something. He'd be like, "Here, try this, try that." And one day I was in there, and I literally was trying to buy, I don't know, some lousy Def Leppard record, and he said, he gives me a disc, and he says, "Listen to this, and if you like this, I'll pay for the Def Leppard disc." And I was like, okay, cool. And I took it home and I listened to it, and I'm not going to lie, I was absolutely horrified with Eaten Back to Life. You know, it was Eaten Back to Life that he gave me. But,
Okay.
and while I was absolutely like, oh, what is this? You know, I'm looking for, you know, hysteria type stuff, and now I get this.
Yeah.
But the thing was I couldn't stop playing it. You know, it was like, I'm getting it, but I'm not getting it. And quite literally, this turned me into a death metal head, where I just started listening to that, and then I started picking up other stuff, whether it was old Hellhammer records or moving forward into Immolation and stuff. So my point to this whole thing is, isn't it crazy how people found your music that was so unfriendly to the market?
Yep, I know, man. I hear a lot of stories like that, man, and it's like the music was very unfriendly to the market. The market was very unfriendly to my music, you know, and the government was too at one point.
Sure.
And you know, I mean, how weird is it for a lot of people to tell us stories, you know, about, I found out about your music because you were in Ace Ventura.
Right.
You know, how oddball is that for us to be, for being as unfriendly as we were to get into such a huge movie? I mean, it's just a kind of a weird way it all happened, and it's not like there was a lot of money behind us or anything.
Right.
I mean, it was done bare bones. I don't even know how much, you know, it was just very, very low pay, man. We did it all for just doing it, and we were out there, you know, struggling, man, like paying dues like people don't understand, you know. And
sure.
You know, it was an easier time of things, man. But you're right, though, man. When you went to the record stores like that, those underground stores, it was such an experience, wasn't it? It was like, it was like almost like kind of going to a concert in a way, because you were going to the record store, man. It was like you'd hear music playing that you didn't hear before. You know, it was just like a gathering, too, kind of feeling. And that's missing, man. That's missing, man. We're all kind of missing that interaction. Even when we go to concerts together, man, we all stick to our phones, dude. Yep. And it's like no one's having fun, man. It all used to be really different when you'd go to a concert with your friends, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like, man, you'd be just, you know, you think of it as like, man, that's kind of crazy now. People are very restrained compared to how it went down back then. But, you know, you know, it is what it is. That's how everything changes.
Yeah. And you're so right, too, about concerts, man. I mean, even if it wasn't your friends, a lot of times you would just go to a show.
And you'd meet people and you'd become friends, you know.
Or the band would play some song that was like a rare track or something. You'd look at the guy next to you and you'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, they're playing that one, man. You know. And next thing you know, you're out in the parking lot, you know, after the show, drinking with them or smoking a joint or whatever.
Right, you meet people before the show. It was like everything was a party and fun, and like people just had a good time, man. It's good. It's cool now, but it is different, man. And you know what? People always say, oh, those old guys always say it was better back in their day. Well, you know, probably was. Even the guys that I met, you know, back in the 80s that told me stories about the 70s, man, I got jealous because those times, man, I missed the real heart of music. I mean, I grew up in but I was young, But
Right.
man, those guys got to see the greatest of the history of music.
Sure. Yep, it's
So,
crazy, man. Well, dudes, not only is that crazy, but so is the new record. It is called Torment. It's 6 Feet Under. And Chris, where can people go online to find out everything going on about you guys and where to pick up the record and all that stuff?
oh yeah, man. Just go to the Metal Blade Records website and /6 Feet Under, and they've got all our info on there, and that you can pick up the album, pre-order it on iTunes, on Amazon, Bandcamp, everything, EMP over in Europe if people are listening there.
Sure.
So yeah, man, pick it up, please pre-order it, and support music and keep this thing going that all the fans back in the old days helped get here, so you can all enjoy. And please don't take advantage of streaming music. Buy the physical albums, buy the whole package, because it's the way we all wanted you to experience it.
Sure. Well, Chris, as a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick a closing track from the record, maybe tell us a story about it. So what would you like us to wrap this one up with?
Well, we'll wrap it up with the final song on the record, Roots of Evil. And it's an interesting song lyrically. I beg people not to chant or recite the lyrics out loud. And that's about it for that one.
All right, well, let's check it out. It is Roots of Evil. It's 6 Feet Under right here on your Classic Metal Show.